The Flushing girl from Flushing, the nanny named Fran.
Oh, Mr. Sheffield.
Miss Fine.
Welcome back. It's another episode of Oh, Mr. Sheffield, a podcast about The Nanny, a TV show from the 90s starring Fran Drescher. I am Sean DiPasquale here with...
Tori Sheffield.
That's right. And we are in...
That is right.
We are in season 3. We're on episode 4, A Fine Family Feud, which I have to be honest, for a minute, I was like, oh no, are we going to get another game show episode?
Oh, see,
that was
my thought was, I wonder how much mileage they're going to get out of entitling episodes of Fine Such and Such. Because remember, we had a Fine Friendship. So we're going to, I think this is the second Fine wordplay we've had.
Yeah, see, I only saw Family Feud, and I was like, oh, what is Fran going to get on a Family Feud? This is stupid.
Which one? I mean, actually, that would be a great episode.
I'm sure it happens. But no, that is not what this is. This is the episode wherein Maggie is turning 16, and they're planning a sweet 16 party for her, and Fran decides that she's going to hold it at her Aunt Frida's nightclub, which is like a 70s disco throwback.
Mm-hmm. Except it's not a throwback; it just has not changed.
Yes, it's a throwback. Right? Yes, it wasn't an intended throwback. It's just a club from the 70s that never changed. And then this causes friction with Sylvia because Sylvia's husband is Frida's brother. So Sylvia and Frida have issues, and
They have not spoken in decades.
Yes.
So it leads into the Family Feud aspect of the title.
And Frida is played by the great Lainie Kazan, whom probably most people know as the mom in My Big Fat Greek Wedding.
Mm-hmm. But she was before that was a very, very famous Broadway actress, and she famously understudied for Barbra Streisand in Funny Girl. And I actually have a note later in this episode where, when she first enters, there's a really big audience reaction. Like you instantly know, oh, okay, guest star. But I don't know if the average American would know who she was. I don't know. Do you think they would?
I mean, she was in the musical My Favorite Year, which was pretty big at the time. And, so, I mean, I don't know. I can't gauge that because I only knew her at the time because of that show, because we did it at my high school. So I knew who she was, I mean, she had been in, she was in The Big Hit, which was a pretty big movie. That was the year before.
Oh, okay.
She guest starred on Murder, She Wrote and Beverly Hills 90210. And she was in Beaches.
Yeah.
And I think at this period of time, she was also on Saint Elsewhere, which was a huge show for multiple episodes. So yeah, I think she was in Harry and the Hendersons. I don't even remember that. Wow. So yeah, I do. I think that at this point she was this funny old lady that people knew. You know?
Okay. So we start off the episode by, as Sean said, establishing that Maggie's Sweet 16 is coming up. And I wrote, is she still only 15? I feel like she's been 15 for 3 years at this point. But
are we to believe she was 13 in season 1?
Or maybe she was 14. What I would love is if some listener would just take inventory of every age reference we've had to Maggie and then just report back. That'd be amazing. Thank you. But so we not only established that her big 16th birthday is coming up, but she is firstly feeling kind of annoyed that her dad, Mr. Sheffield, still treats her like a little girl. He literally, she's literally like, oh, he just keeps pinching my cheek and saying here's my almost grown up little girl. And no sooner, and she was with this goofy smile on his face. And then no sooner does she say that, does he literally enter the kitchen and he has this very, very funny, goofy smile on his face. And he's like, where's my almost grown up little girl? And it's actually very cute. But so we established this tension between those two, which is ongoing, but coming to a head in this episode. And we also got a Princess Diana virginity disc.
It's so funny that I wrote that down too. I wrote, was that a Princess Diana virginity joke?
Yeah, it was, which is, God, these.
Why?
Well, because I can explain it to you. But the thing that I was thinking is just these shows are wonderful in their own right, but they're also these incredible time capsules because obviously nobody would make this joke after 1997 when she, Princess Diana tragically died at 36 years old. But, this is a couple years before that. And the thing was when Prince Charles announced his engagement to the young, Diana, who I think was 19 years old at the time. Obviously, like the press went insane and wanted to know everything about her. And she was on the cover of every magazine, and her virginity did come up. And she was like, it was like, yes, I am a virgin. And everyone was like, oh, his virgin bride, which is also just like so gross and weird, but
that's
different time. And royal shit is weird. But so
that's pretty gross.
Yeah,
honestly.
right. But so I mean,
it's also like, ew. But
the joke was like, oh yeah, like you can't. It was like the hat on a whole other joke where basically Fran's about to say something about when she lost her virginity, but then she realizes little Gracie will hear. So she goes, it's like when I lost my Virgin Airline tickets. And then Gracie goes, did you get them back? Or did you get your money back? And Fran goes, no, sweetie. But like, that's a no refund unless you get engaged to Prince Charles.
Yes.
Basically meaning that, okay, she clearly wasn't a virgin, but then suddenly was when she was in the public eye.
Right.
But hey.
Well, hey, look, and how do we know? Maybe she was a virgin.
I feel like ex-boyfriends came out of the woodwork, but
to say like we had sex.
That's
hey,
it's
that's
nasty,
also rude, man. Everyone's so rude to her.
It's a nasty business. I know.
I gotta watch The Crown.
Such a great show. Let's just pause this. Catch you up on 4 seasons.
I gotta get into that.
So you can understand all these references.
Well, what's interesting is, we talk about like our audience for this show, and it's like, I wonder how many people know about all of that stuff because of shows like The Crown, or because they lived through it like us and they're old, or like me, lived through it and still had no idea what any of this was. Cause like all I remember from when I was a child was that the Christine on Night Court loved Princess Diana and was like obsessed with her. And that's it. That's all I knew. And then one day Princess Diana died and people were sad. And I was like, yeah, I mean, it's sad when anyone dies. I don't get it, And there were like processions down the street of like people crying. And I was like, I don't get this.
My mom holed up in her bedroom and watched the funeral on repeat because they kept re-airing it for like a day and a half.
Why do people have this connection to this lady?
Listen, that is a whole other conversation that we don't have time for. Okay, so when Mr. Sheffield comes in, he very, very proudly and excitedly reveals that his big, huge birthday idea and plan for for Maggie is that they're going to have a party at the Guggenheim where he very fancy, but very dry. And he says,
but still, like, I would be into that, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I don't know. Like, it depends if you're a 16-year-old and maybe you're not that into art. Well, and it also it's the other stuff because he says he's like, Gloria Vanderbilt just had her birthday party there, and Gloria Vanderbilt would be like 80 years old or something. Mm-hmm. And he also says something like, he's like, and we might even get Itzhak Perlman to play, who was like a famous old Polish violinist. And then Mr. Sheffield literally like giddily crosses his fingers and is like, I hope he's available, and runs out. And it's very clear that Maggie, while she appreciates his efforts and excitement, like thinks that this is lame and boring. She's literally like, this party's going to be so stuffy, Fran. Like none of my friends are going to like it. And Fran's even like, don't worry, honey, no one will come. Not because, which could be interpreted as like, you have no friends and no one will come. But I think she meant like, no one will come to this like lame party if you're like a teenager that wants to like rage. And there was also this really funny moment in this scene where when Mr. Sheffield is setting up where the party's going to be, and he's like describing it's going to be at this like wonderful, elegant, incredible place. Fran goes, Leonard's of Great Neck. And she goes, they have a shrimp scampi made out of scrod that's to die for. And so first of all, scrod is a white fish, which makes sense because shrimp's not technically kosher. So like a very Jewish wedding place probably wouldn't serve shrimp. But I Googled it. It's a real place. And there's a line on their website. It's just so Long Island because it literally goes, Our new destination reception provides luxurious dining and superb service, all designed to impress your guests at a location of your choice. And I just wrote, so trashy. It's like, it's not designed to be like, to make it an unforgettable day for like you and your loved ones. It's designed to impress your guests. Oh, so gross.
Don't dine here alone because you got to have someone to impress if you're coming all the way out here for us campies.
And it's also like, because yes, what is a wedding for if not to?
What is a wedding for? What for is a wedding if not to impress all of the people you invited to it? Certainly not to exchange wedding vows.
Yep. But so that's not even really the A plot of the episode that we've established, but this is the context for,
hey, Louie, put that shrimp down. You're getting your sticky fingers all over it.
Oh, God. I never, ever should have. I created a monster. I shouldn't have said anything. Oh, no.
All right, go ahead.
Oh, God. But so, let's see, where are we? Oh, so in the next scene, we actually find out that Cece is the one who's been helping Mr. Sheffield plan this like very stuffy event, obviously. And he's like, oh, Cece, thank you so much for all your help with this. And she goes, oh, Maxwell, I adore the children as if they're my own. And she goes, especially, and she like furrows her brow and studies a family photo and goes, the big one. Which, it was so funny. And then, so Fran and Maggie have had their little conversation about how like this party's going to be lame. So they agree to go talk to Mr. Sheffield. But of course, Maggie wusses out. So even though they're supposed to storm his office together, Fran ends up like boldly marching in by herself.
I love this bit. And I love that like she's like, hey, we want to talk to you. And then she realizes Maggie's not next to her. And she goes, oh, I taught that girl too well.
Yes.
I love that.
So Maggie bailed and Fran tries to, gently say that this is like a terrible idea for a party for a teenage girl. And Mr. Sheffield is, well, first of all, there's this fantastic comedic beat because Cece's like, but Maxwell, I've been over backwards to get the Guggenheim. Niles, who is also in the office, is leaving. And as he hears that, he goes, wouldn't be the first time. At which point, Cece literally slams the door in his face.
Yeah, I love that.
But without even breaking eye contact with Mr. Sheffield. And so it was just like this very subtle comedic beat where like she knew that this dig was coming. She's not even mad. She's just like,
it's so smooth. And he steps just at the perfect spot out of the room and like kind of turns around to make the dig. And she just swings the door closed effortlessly into his face. And it just shuts before he even gets the whole thing out. And it was just so good. I noted that too. Cause I was like, oh, that's such good physical comedy. Like it's great timing.
And the way that she does it without missing a beat, like again, she's not mad. She's just like, oh no, don't have time for that.
Great.
But so Mr. Sheffield's like, well, fine, Miss Fine, if we're not going to have it at the Guggenheim, like, what do you suggest? And she says she wants to have it at a place called Tanta Fritas, which is owned by, quote, her father's sister. And she goes, it used to be a restaurant, but no one ever went. Whose bright idea was it to open a Tony Roma's in a Hasidic neighborhood? A Tony Roma's being a baby back rib restaurant.
Yes, a great place. Tony Roma's is awesome.
Yeah. But so she's basically like, Maggie would really like me to take over the planning responsibilities. So he relents, even though, he's a little bummed out and disappointed, but he does. So then we go to Fran and Maggie at this actual club, Tanta's Fritas, super trashy, like tinsel curtains, gross 70s era carpeting. At one point, Fran, I think stomps on what we can assume is a cockroach of some kind. And while they're there, Fran reveals that her mother and her aunt Frida, who owns this place, have not spoken since 1979. And she's like, it's destroying them. They both gained 40 pounds and they can't even rub it in each other's faces. And I wrote, that's too real, based on my family. And that's when Aunt Frida emerges. And it's, as you said, it's Lainey Kazan. And she looks like basically Fran in 30 years, like huge hair, nails, tons of makeup, gaudy, queen's outfit.
Yeah.
And Fran and her, they embrace and they're so happy to see each other. And Fran reveals that Frida has outlived 4 husbands.
Oh, I love this line. This is my favorite line of
it. Should I just save it?
Yes, save it.
Well, she reveals that she's outlived 4 husbands. And then Frida goes, at least I got them all in one plot. On holy days, I'm in and I'm out. Meaning she only has to visit one grave for 4 husbands. And also, my God, what a way to go. Getting buried with 3 other men.
It's so funny. And it's like, it ties back into what we've talked about, I think, on this show before, about like Jews and their wedding and their cemetery plots.
Yep. At one point, Frida stomps on something and she goes, "These darn butterflies."
I love that. I love that. She steps on a roach and she goes, "Damn butterflies."
like just insisting that these are butterflies.
Yeah. Little black butterflies that crawl across the floor.
so Frida walks away and Maggie goes like, "Fran, if your mom and your aunt aren't speaking, won't your mom be upset if we have the party here?" And Fran's like, "Oh no, she'll be totally fine." We then cut to one of my first really laugh out loud moments of this episode. And I was laughing the whole time, but this was just extra.
It was great.
Sylvia's literally trying to jump out her kitchen window, yelling, "I want to die.
I want to die." It's literally, she's like, she goes, "Nah, mom will be okay." And then it cuts to, Sylvia just going, "I want to die. Let me go."
And she's like, "I can't believe you would do this to me." And then Fran's like, "This isn't about you, Ma." And Sylvia goes,
"I have nothing to do with my daughter's boss's daughter, sweet 16. And then she goes, "Marty, do you hear this?"
And then I literally had a note where I'm like, "Oh man, this is starting to get into some dangerous territory for me because I see my own family in this so much that I'm like, I feel like if I acknowledge that, I'll get in trouble." But just the idea that someone taking something that has nothing to do with them personally, saying, "How could you do this to me?" And I just wrote, "Oh, the stories I could tell. How long do you have?" Okay, we established that Sylvia is actually very not okay with this and that this is going to cause a lot of problems. Sylvia goes, "Frida's blacklisting me from her club, just like she did from Hadassah." And Fran goes, "Ma, Frida didn't blacklist you from Hadassah. Like, they kicked you out because you kept giving them, you kept donating cakes with half the frosting licked off." And then Sylvia goes, I told you, I was lightheaded in the car ride over." it's like, bam, bam, bam.
It's so good. There's also at the very end of that scene, she goes, "Ma, you're just trying to make me feel guilty." And Sylvia goes, "I'm not trying to make you feel anything." And then she feels her breast and she goes, "Do I have a lump here?"
Yes, it was amazing. It was so amazing. So then we have this great scene back at the mansion where Cece walks in and she's like, "Oh, Niles, I drove all over Greenwich, Connecticut looking for that jewelry store for Maggie's present." And she's like, "And I couldn't find it." And he's like, "Oh, did I say Greenwich, Connecticut? I meant Greenwich Village." And then she's like, "What?" And then she's like, "Oh," and she storms out. And then he's like,
No, she goes, "And they don't deliver?" And then she's like, storms out. And then he goes, "Oh, wait, they do deliver." And then he goes, "I should stop her." And then he runs, he walks to the door, opens the door and goes, "Cece, come back."
So quiet.
Cece.
So quietly.
So quiet. And then he goes, "Hmm." And shuts the door.
Yeah. Oh, wait, but did you reveal that he also already clearly has picked it up?
Oh, yeah, and he already has it.
Yeah. So I'm sure if she goes and finds it, it won't be there anyway. Don't tell her it's sold out.
Well, it's delivered,
Oh, yeah.
because he goes, "Oh, right, they do deliver." And then, that's right. He has the box, but it's the funny bit was that performance was great. I didn't know I thought he was going to open the door, and not say anything. So I got a genuine laugh when he went, "Cece, come back. Come
so
back,
quiet.
Cece."
Yeah. And so then
Fran basically parent traps. I mean, it's a parent trap situation, right?
Yes. Well, because, she initially tries to tell Mr. Sheffield that they're going to have to go back and do it at the Guggenheim because she's like, oh, no, this is going to cause way too much trouble in my family. Right. And he's like, I already canceled the Guggenheim. And like, I don't understand why your mother and your aunt's situation is affecting my child's party. He's like, you're going to figure it out and make it work. He's kind of understandably pretty mad at this point.
Totally.
And so this is when the parent trap situation happens. And this is, oh my God, what another incredible
great scene. Dude, the first line, Frida walks in the door and she goes, if I knew it was so fancy, I would have slipped on the stairs outside.
Yes, I have that line too. It's like so good.
It's the best.
Yeah.
I laughed so loud Elizabeth jumped.
and so then she walks in and then Sylvia walks in and they both realize that the other person's there. And like in total unison, they're both like, what's she doing here? Like, and then they're like, you're not welcome here. Fine, I'm leaving. And they both try to stomp out when they realize that Fran has like orchestrated them both being there at the same time. Yeah. At which point Fran literally goes, Ma, Frida, chocolate cake. And she holds up this beautiful, gorgeous chocolate cake. And then in like for any other actresses or for like any other situation, this would almost be offensive how stupid it is, but it is so funny.
It's so funny.
It works so well after, with these characters. She literally starts waving the cake around on a cake platter and they turn around. They're like their lips start to smack together and they start to just turn around and come further and further back into the living room. And they finally both sit on the couch and start reaching out for it. And she's like, no, not until we've talked.
Yeah.
Hey, it's Kaylee Cuoco for Priceline. Ready to go to your happy place for a happy price? Well, why didn't you say so? Just download the Priceline app right now and save up to 60% on hotels. So whether it's Cousin Kevin's Kazoo Concert in Kansas City, go Kevin, or Becky's Bachelorette Bash in Bermuda, you never have to miss a trip ever again. So download the Priceline app today. Your savings are waiting.
Go to your happy place for a happy price. Go to your happy price, Priceline.
And then you have this scene that, again, it felt so real to me and like situations in my family over the decades because she was, Fran sits them down and she's like, so you guys haven't talked for decades. Like, what's the fight even about? And they both start to speak. And then they both kind of hem and haw. And Fran's like, see, you don't even remember why you're fighting. And she's like, but meanwhile, and then she starts to list like all the nice things they had done for each other over the years and the way that they, always thought about each other and took care of each other. And they both kind of start to cry. And, they hug each other and all's resolved. And then I thought it was actually going to turn around because then Fran goes, see, like, who cares who has, grandma so-and-so's pearls when you've got love. And then they both go, oh, you do have her pearls, don't you? but then they get calmed down again. And, you realize.
By another piece of cake.
Yeah, by another piece of cake.
She goes, ah.
Yeah, but it's like, all these years of absurd feuding when they would have actually been much happier together is resolved in this way, but just, getting them together in the same room. And so then I'm like, oh, how much more can there be? Because I noticed there was still like a significant number of minutes left in that
and honestly,
episode.
We get one of the most fun sequences I think this show's ever had. And the cast looks like they're having the most fun I've seen them have on this show.
Oh my God. Yeah. This is a cast that never breaks. And like, you could see them all trying not to break because we end up going to the party and at first, Sylvia and Frida are on good terms, but then someone says something or this or that, and they.
Well, so Frida and Sylvia walk in on good terms, and then Fran notices that Frida's dress is like tucked into her underwear, and she like untucks her dress for her, and then Frida's like, "See, this is why I got mad at you in the first place because we were at someone's bar mitzvah, and you let me dance around with my tuchus hanging out the whole time," and then. Then Sylvia says something back and then they start fighting again. And then Fran tries to distract him again with cake. But then this time, no. Sylvia picks up an eclair and smashes it.
Yep.
No, it's Frida that starts it, right? Frida smashes the eclair onto Sylvia's chest, and then Sylvia smashes cake onto Frida's chest.
Sylvia
or was it the other
started.
way?
See, hey, this is exactly how these family feuds start. Who knows? Like
I'm on Frida's side.
For some reason, I remembered it being Sylvia, but either way, so they start smashing baked goods into each other, and one of the kids sees it and goes, "Food fight!" And then food just starts getting hurled everywhere, a mile a minute, and it's like mostly baked goods and creams and eclairs and things that just like, and custards, and Mr. Sheffield, who had been so happy a few minutes ago that everything was going so well, like I think he leaves to get his camera and he reemerges into the party to see like, it's just like it's barbaric insanity. And he turns on the lights and he stops the music and he's like, what is going on here? And then Fran emerges from the crowd.
It reminded me of the food fight in Hook.
Oh my God. Yeah. Yeah, it was just
just like all of a sudden food is just flying, and you're like, I've never seen a food fight that violent in real life.
Yes. And then it was also a very like I Love Lucy comedic beat too when Fran emerges, and like she's not just like covered in food. Somehow there are literal like intact baked goods stacked on her head. Like, that is how covered in food she is. And, she comes out and I think he says something like, Niles, what's going on? And he emerges as well. And I think he and Cece have also clearly used the opportunity to just like completely try to eviscerate each other in this food fight. And they're both completely covered, but like, everyone's trying to
like covered, like he looked slimed.
Yeah.
Like what was all this food? Like where was all this goop is what that was my only question. Is I was like, I don't understand what they had at this party that was like gallons of goop to drip all over.
I think it was like bowls of custard and pudding. And the funny thing is though, they're all trying to maintain their dignity while looking like this, like, and as if nothing that bad has happened. I forgot to say that during the actual food fight, this is when you really saw Frida and Sylvia and everyone like almost breaking and almost laughing and clearly like just having a ball, which was so fun.
They all look like they're having like genuinely, like the kids all like jump out of their seats and start immediately throwing food at like they were clearly like had rehearsed this without throwing any food multiple times and everyone was just like ready to go, And
then like you have to wonder, like, did they have to do multiple takes? Like,
I hope not.
God, so was this a kind of thing where there's a lot of pressure on them to just go for it?
It was probably
get it done.
Honestly, it's TV. It was probably like, we're doing this once and it's going to take hours to fix. So please don't break.
Yeah. And so Mr. Sheffield's super livid until Maggie emerges and she's also, covered in food. And she's like, Dad, no, she goes, hey, who was the idiot who, turned off the music and turned on the lights? Everyone was having such a good time.
Yeah.
And so he realizes that, oh no, this didn't actually ruin this party. It made it like way more fun for all the kids. So, they turn the music back on, the disco lights come back and like all seems well. And then Mr. Sheffield thanks Fran for throwing this all together, at which point she responds by giving him a huge hug, which is funny because he's not covered in any food or anything and she's completely covered. And she not only hugs him, but literally starts like rubbing it all up and down.
Like writhing it into his like suit.
Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah. So it was it was just a very fun episode. And it was kind of an episode where a lot happened that you couldn't have expected, but it didn't feel like random. Remember when we were kind of complaining about like the close shave episode where we were like, oh, clearly every single thing happened just so we could get to this one big comedic beat. And like, it was almost boring because you could see it coming a mile away. Like,
this wasn't that. This all felt like natural turn of events. Like one thing led to another and things get out of hand. It was great. If I had been keeping a list of my favorite episodes, I would have added this one to it. Should we move on to segments?
I think we should.
Let's move on to segments. And now, segments.
So, segments.
Yeah, no, I think we should move on to segments.
We can move on to our segments.
And now, segments.
Segments with Sean and Toria. Some of your favorite lines and moments.
I said almost all of them, honestly.
I know.
But like, I think I love Lady Kazan and her delivery of, if I knew it was so fancy, I would have slipped on the stairs outside. killed me. The cut to Sylvia trying to jump out the window killed me.
I mean, yeah, and this was one of those episodes where I think you can tell like how excited and how much fun we had when watching when it's very hard for us to save our favorite lines and moments to the end in segments because we went over so many of them. Those are all my favorites. I realized though, we didn't mention this very big comedic beat that was like a Jurassic Park parody bit because when Sylvia and Frida first get to the mansion and they realize they've been trapped, they both turn around and are about to run out the door. But young Brighton, who's now not that young anymore, he's standing in the doorway with his rollerblades and a helmet on. And as the women start to run, it goes into slow-mo and you see their just, huge legs start to hit the mansion floor in their high heels. And then you see the water in the vase on the table start to shake and Brighton turns. And if, you realize they had him in rollerblades so that he would have a helmet on because, the kid in Jurassic Park famously like had a helmet on during a ton of the action in some of the biggest set pieces. And so he screams and he clearly is too afraid to try to be anywhere near these women. And like he bails really fast. And it was a very funny beat. And
I loved it.
It was great. It was a great,
I don't know if the kid in Jurassic Park had a helmet on though.
No, I think he did in the T-Rex scene. You don't think?
No.
Really?
No. Maybe this is one of those Mandela effect things where you saw the movie and he had a helmet.
How do you know that I'm the one who's wrong? I think he had a...
Because I'm Googling images right now and he doesn't have a helmet.
Oh, somebody knows how to Google stuff.
Okay, but it was a great scene. It was one of those sequences that we'd get every once in a while on the show where they like film it all of a sudden from a different perspective. Like it's not shot in that 3-camera setup. It's like they switch into like first person perspective of like first you see like them running towards Brighton, the women running towards Brighton, and then you see like from the women's point of view is like Brighton's face as they're getting closer and he's like looking terrified, and it was great. It was a good sequence and everything's like in slow motion. It was great.
I think maybe let's go into our listener thoughts for the week. So I'm going to pull up. So we didn't have as many, but that's okay because we've been recording so long anyway. Okay. Let me pull it up on my phone real quick because I have it.
Pull it up on your phone. Pull it up on your phone. Hey there, Toria, where you going? Pull the information up on your phone. We've got things from the audience that you want to hear. Toria's gonna have to look it up because we did not plan very well. Look it up. Pull it up on your phone. Pull it up on your phone. Hey there, Toria, what are you doing? Do you have it ready to go?
So this is from listener Susanna Varghese, who also wrote in last time.
Susanna.
She said that one of her favorite running jokes is that Cece doesn't know the kids' names, which is also fantastic. I love it.
Me too.
And she says she loves when they captured Ma and Aunt Frida laughing during the food fight, which we're obviously in such agreement. And let's see. She acknowledges that Fran's blue party outfit looks great on her, which it does. It's such a big look, but it's great. And she's like, overall, the episode was great. It was a silly plot line, but they acknowledge it during the episode too. So, so it was great. Yeah. Like, every step of the way, even Niles at one point is like, how did your mother get involved with this?
Yeah. But it, like you said before, it makes sense within the context of these characters. It makes complete sense.
It absolutely does. And okay, so trivia this week. It's a corrections corner, also from a listener. This was so cool, I thought. So this is from listener Ron Mintz. And he listened to one of our episodes that it would have aired from the listener's perspective a number of weeks ago. But for us, we just, no, I can never get our timeline right. But to us,
don't worry about it, guys.
We haven't even recorded it yet.
We haven't even recorded this episode yet. It's crazy. Yeah, we record them way in advance. So even though he would have just heard it, for us, it would have been probably something we recorded like 3 months ago at this point.
Yes. But so this is, he's referring to the episode where we talk about how Cece references that she's in charge of Niles's pension plan. And she says something like, you better be nice to me or I'm going to invest your pension in Orange County bonds. And we had discussed, what that was, like why it was a really bad thing to invest in, how at the time Orange County was in dire financial straits. And I think one of us had said like, yeah, there'd been a string of natural disasters. So listener Ron Mintz wrote in and he said, really enjoy your podcast. I was there in the 90s and I am a municipal bonds professional. So let me tell you about Orange County.
Oh,
There was not a natural disaster, but rather a man-made financial one. In essence, the county invested in risky derivative securities, which I don't know what those are, but something risky, as a way to generate more revenue. Those securities had a good run, but eventually reversed, generating a fiscal crisis that led to the county's 1994 bankruptcy filing. At the time, it was a huge deal, and for a while, the county's bonds plummeted in value. They were eventually restructured. The county treasurer went to jail, and he linked an article to it.
I feel like I knew all of that in reading it, like in research for the episode, and then regurgitated it back all incorrectly.
Hi, isn't that what it means to be an American? we have our opinions. We know everything.
Hey, speaking of regurgitating, shout out to our buddy Tom.
Oh yeah, our friend Tom spent a lot of time throwing up last night, but he's
fine.
Okay.
He's fine.
So he then goes on to say, as a possible other inside joke only for investment professionals. So I'm not sure if this was actually
for just like this guy.
Yeah. Municipal bonds are usually tax exempt and therefore have a lower interest rate compared to other bonds. Pension investments are also tax exempt until the funds are withdrawn. So there is no need to invest in these unless CC wanted to further screw over Niles. And then he says, really enjoy your reviews of The Nanny, a fond memory of those days that's been fun to revisit on HBO Max. Thanks for doing it, Ron.
Fun. Thanks for writing in. That was awesome.
I know.
Oh, man. Now other people that listen have a lot to live up to because,
Yeah. And I wrote, I love that Ron listens. I love that like so many different types of people enjoy the show. I love it.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, look. It's like this show was a huge hit on a major network, like at the precipice of cable becoming a thing. So it got like big ratings because it's not like there was a million channels like there is now. There were more certainly than like only being 3 channels to flip through, but like network shows still were like big business back then. This was pre-streaming anything. So like, yeah, I mean, I'm sure the show had a wide swath of different types of viewers,
and fans. Yeah. It's just, I know. I loved it.
That's great.
And so Yiddish, we have the word yentas again.
Classic.
Fran calls her mom and aunt a couple of yentas.
They are.
As we've, said in previous episodes, yenta is actually a Yiddish name for a woman. It is a woman's name in Yiddish, and it kind of evolved to refer to just a busybody and became more.
Yenta is the Jewish Karen.
Yes, exactly. And then for the Fran or the Cece, I wrote, I am uncool like Cece. You were a bad boy like Fran. So it's like, it's established that Cece definitely was like not doing anything cool when she was younger. And it's established that Fran was doing a lot of, crazy stuff. And I feel like that was more you.
Yeah, it was.
Yep. Hey, guys, I've said it before. Sean got kicked out of art school, which is hard to do.
I had already decided to leave, so really it doesn't count. They just didn't invite me back, but I was like, well, I wasn't going back, so thanks, I guess.
See, wow. If I have not heard a more obstinate bad boy thing to say, like, hey, I was already out of there.
Yeah, I was already out. I was back in Florida. I was like, I'm not going back to that place. I did not enjoy that experience at all. And then I got a letter like 6 months later that was like, blah, 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 blah. You're not invited back. And I was like, Okay.
You're like, screw you guys, I'm already home.
And I never showed my parents and then told them like 15 years later that happened. And my mom went, oh, she literally gasped. She went,
oh God. Oh. But so that's the episode. Very fun. I loved the listener feedback. Yeah, and send us stuff. Send us your thoughts. If we get something wrong, if we say something that like
stupid.
Could be clear. Yeah. If Sean specifically, if I say something wrong, then just quietly sidebar me and I'll never share it. But so this was so fun. And I hope you guys liked it.
Yeah. And if you did, then you should go to Apple Podcasts or Spotify Podcasts or any place that they let you leave a review or a rating. And you should rate and review the show because that helps other people find the show. And if you do want to send us in corrections or notes or anything really, you can do it on Twitter or on Instagram at Oh Mr. Chef Pod. Not a lot of people use Twitter, it doesn't seem like. Our audience is strictly IG.
Yeah.
But hey, listen, I keep giving that Twitter out because every once in a while I do remember to check it and someone has written something and I favorite
it. There you go, people. That's
Twitter interaction. It's easy.
All right.
That was it.
Yeah, we'll see you guys next week.
Yeah, for another episode of Oh Mr. Sheffield. Bye.
The Flushing Girl from Flushing, the nanny named Fran.
Oh, Mr. Sheffield.
I go, Miss Fine.